Hello, everybody. It is Seth Apter. I am so very excited today to share with you my newest release of fabrics with FreeSpirit Fabrics. Thank you all so much for being here. I absolutely love these reveals. You know, as a designer, we work on collections months and sometimes literally a year plus before the time we actually get to reveal it. So we are sitting on the secret of creativity that we are not allowed to share. So that day of sharing just becomes so exciting and so joyful. And I love the fact that all you enthusiastic people are here joining me, watching me birth this collection. I am going to just share very little bit of information about the collection and tell you the inspiration behind it and what it's all about. And then I'm going to spend more time sharing and showing you the fabric itself, because I always like to say in a show and tell, it's the show that's more exciting than the tell. Those of you who are fabric lovers and who isn't, I have been working with FreeSpirit Fabrics for about 3 years now. This is my third collection, and I couldn't be more excited. People always ask me, what's my favorite? What's my favorite? They're all my favorite, but typically the current one I am working on or showing is my favorite. And that is true here. My first collection was called Storyboard, and I know many of you know it and have it. My second collection, which is still out there, Live Out Loud. And my third collection, the one I'm going to share today, is called On Your Mark. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about On Your Mark. So on your mark, what's that about? Well, it comes from the phrase, mostly on your mark, get set, go. But there's, I think, three meanings behind it. The first one is really, the collection is about mark making. It is about my marks. It is about symbols. It is about all those things we add to our creative output that are all about the marks that we make. The marks I make are different than the ones you make, and vice versa. And so I am sharing my marks through this collection. What else is it about? On your mark, it's about making your mark. I think about all the products that I design with all my companies as tools for you to use them your way, not my way, your way. When you use my products, when you use my fabric, I don't want somebody to look at the output that you share and say, oh, that's Seth's fabric. I have that too. I want them to look and see your art. So the way I've created this fabric, it's very abstract as always, so that you can use different elements of it to put it together to make your own mark in your creative world. So on your mark, get set, go is also about when you're on your mark, you're in place, you're ready to move, you're just about to spring. And that's what I want this to be. I want this to be an inspirational collection for you to use and then just go off into whatever creative juncture you want to go. So we're going to start and go further by saying on your mark, get set, go. So this collection, it has 16 designs. For those of you who are not familiar with FreeSpirit, they are an amazing, amazing company. It is a pure and utter collaboration between FreeSpirit and myself, which is so important to me. And they make the most gorgeous fabrics. Those of you who know fabrics know you go into the fabric store, fabric's got to have a hand. You feel it. Sometimes it looks great. It doesn't feel so good. FreeSpirit makes the best quality fabric. I am amazed at how they have translated all my artwork into the fabric that you're about to see. It is a quilting company, but does that mean you have to be a quilter to use my fabric? No. I have designed this line so that it is equally accessible and usable and functional for a quilter as it is for a mixed media artist, as it is for anybody. You might be making a bag, you might be making a doll, you might be making a card, you might be using it for scrapbook paper, you might be putting it in your journal. I have all of you in mind, and I created this to be very versatile and usable for all of you. All right, let's see. I'm going to say more, I'm sure, but oh, I know you want to see the collection. So let's go through. I'm going to show you all 16. So the first of many in no particular order is called Page by Page. So let me give you the reveal. This is Page by Page. And I'm going to just fold it in half so as the light comes through, it doesn't diminish the richness and the tone and the colors and the textures. And remember, this collection is called On Your Mark. And you could clearly see in this first one I'm showing you all the marks. All right, this is tracks. Remember, this is all about mark making. This is all about mark making and using symbols and marks that are individual, that are universal, that you can use in your way. Tracks. My favorites. I love this one. It is called Landmark. All right, you ready for Landmark? The interesting thing about this fabric is it looks so different from a distance than it does from close up. But for example, Landmark, I could absolutely think about a mixed media artist, a journal artist, cutting one of these segments and using this as a front and a back page to a journal. And then let's just get a little closer. You can see there's some script in there. There's some marks. There's some color blocks and colorways. And you can see that it has some really beautiful contrast in it. Some darks and some lights in all the different segments. Flavor. So this is script, again, very different from far away. You can clearly see the repeat. But let's get close up so you can see the details, because that is where the beauty lies. And once again, big props to FreeSpirit for somehow working their magic to take this artwork that is so layered and so detailed and so marked up and somehow capturing those layers and that depth so effectively. Totally loving this one. And I really love the paleness of it. And what I also want you to note that this is absolutely not a black and white, because there's sepia, there's some soft greens and blues, there are some different shades of blacks and grays, there's some taupe. There's just so many marks. So this one is called Chain Letter. And again, I'm all about text, but I couldn't just keep doing it the same way. I got text in this collection in a very different way. So this is Chain Letter. You see the letters? You see the text? All right, so let me share, let me show. And again, this is not black and white. You're going to see little splatters in the background of some beautiful sort of honey coffee flavors. I think this one is really user friendly. I just think you are going to be able to do so much with it. I mean, I look at this, I think this would make a great pillow. I think this would actually make great curtains. I think it would be a cool in clothes. I absolutely think it would be a great journal cover. And I think it would look gorgeous in a quilt. All right, let's go to the next one. Maybe a surprise to some of you. Got a little bit of a different feel. I really wanted to go with this combination of sort of deserty vibes and then very graphic vibes, like you just saw with Chain Letter. So this is Diamonds. Are we ready? Diamonds. Oh yeah. Once again, looks so different from the back and the nosebleed seats than it does close up. But I love this. This will be a familiar motif to those of you who know me well, because I have this motif in one of my rubber stamps, and I just love it in fabric. I think it's amazing to be used in different ways, and I love the notion of an applique in quilting or fabric work, and also mixed media. My idea is to just cut these into strips and use them as borders and overlaps, and you can create the lines going vertically, horizontally, diagonally. You can have them sit next to each other without the gap in between. Again, 1,000,001 ideas. Yes. We're going to go to Finish Line. Ah, another one of my favorites. Love this one. This is Finish Line. Again, I'm always struck by how a huge slice of fabric looks so different from far away with the repeat than it does close up with the detail. Again, some of you are going to notice there's some very familiar marks here. Some of my designs I've used across many of my collections. I've used them for stamps. I've used them for stencils. I've used now them for fabric. These are the marks that speak to me. And if I'm going to be authentic to myself, I'm going to be using the ones that speak to me until they don't speak to me any longer. But I absolutely love the splatter. You can see it in the background. And the colorways of this, I think, is just, for me, just gorgeous. This one is called Here and Now. Again, from far away, looks one way. And close up, you can see the numbers, the letters, the marks. You can see the different color blocks. It has a little bit of a feel that reminds me of Page by Page, the first one I showed you. But it's distinct and it's different. And I absolutely adore this one. I also think that with a lot of my designs, in some cases the repeats are small, but in some cases the repeats are quite large, which means that you can use different segments in the same quilt and they will absolutely work together, but they won't even be repeating the same design. And I think for mixed media artists, there are tons of collage elements that you can find. But so this is Alphabet City. And seriously, this is one of my favorites. One of my favorites. I absolutely love this. I love the colors. I love the contrast between that soft sagey green and that rich coffee tone. I love the fact that it's inconsistent. It's so anything but perfect because if you know me, you know, I think imperfect is perfect. Alphabet City. Why is it called Alphabet City? Well, a lot of my work is inspired by New York City. And I kind of think about, if you look at this, this almost looks like buildings side by side, where each of these little gaps are windows or doors. And Alphabet City, you got to look really closely because all these little marks and splatters, they're the alphabet, my friends. Yeah, you may have just seen them as little splats and marks and blotches. And if that's okay, because I love my blotches, but each of these little marks is a letter. Again, one of my goals for this collection was to keep using text. I find it so inspirational. I find it so beautiful. I find it so meaningful, both generally and personally. But I didn't just want to have every one of my pieces just have a word on it or multiple words. I put text in there in so many different ways, in script, in some vintage script, in scribbles where it looks like words, but it's not, in letters, in these blotches. All right, let's move from Alphabet City to Side by Side. Side by Side. Love the colors in this one. Again, you can see how it would work with this full collection. You also see how it would work with the colors in my original two links. This one's called Side by Side. I love the fact that it's at once completely muted and at the same time is bright and vivid, or my version of bright and vivid. A lot of the, I think people at FreeSpirit laugh at me when I say, yeah, this is a bright collection. And then they put it side by some of the other designers. It's bright for me. Here's Wander, another one that's going to be a little bit familiar in the sense that it is filled with words. Or I should say word because it is the only word. And I want you to notice, again, inspiration. I want you to notice that this does have, in my mind, a very desert feel, which is part of the inspiration to the collection. But at the same time, in my mind, it has a very urban city feel because you can think about it. Look at that grid. That feels like it's a drone's eye view of the streets of New York City. Those brown rectangles, that feels like all the buildings dotted around the city. This also feels like a walk through Central Park, or should I say a wander through Central Park. The Bounty. This one's called Assemblage. And again, for very, very different reasons, I love this. I love this. And this one, let me just take a moment to give you some of the details. This is just an assemblage, really, of everything. So many small elements. And again, for a mixed media artist, you could pull that segment out, that segment out. You could cut out those three circles. You could use that element right there just as background. You can choose the words. And for a quilter, this could become multiple areas within your quilt where you have that cohesion, but each one has a different flavor and a different flair. Chain mail. So remember that alphabet? Well, this is the alphabet in a different scale with a different flavor because of that beautiful, soft, ethereal, dreamy, sky-like, sea-like background. Again, my whole goal was to keep my sort of signature of having text, but have it in so many different ways. And I absolutely excited about using this in strips as well. And even cutting out, yes, I will do this, cut out individual letters and reassemble them and spell out words, phrases, maybe even paragraphs. We have contours. We have some dark to go with some of the light. We have some beautiful contrast in terms of darks and lights in the collection. I love this one. It's just so layered. I love this one. This one is just, that word rich, it has so many connotations to me. The depth and the richness of these colors, again, captured by FreeSpirit in a way that has always exceeded my expectations. But this one is kind of like diamonds, only it's zigzag. And oh, it's just from far away. I love how that reads. But I like it even better how it reads close up. This is one of those where, depending upon how your eye sees it, you either focus on the black zigzag or you focus on the colors, and you kind of get a completely different feel, to it, depending upon how you see it. But I love this one. I will tell you, it kind of reminds me a little bit, dare I say it, of Charlie Brown and the t-shirt that he wears. But I kind of like that because I like a sense of history in my fabric. It's called Maize. That's Maize. I think this is just beautiful from a distance, but I adore this one close up. And again, the motifs, the symbols, they're ones that I've made and I've used in other products. I think it's just so great, this notion that you can get different products that work all together. So thank you so much. Be on your mark, be ready, and we will go.